Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning again. Today we will now be discussing about completing the square as a means of solving quadratic equations. Okay, so first one, let's analyze this given. Okay, the x plus 5 squared, that's a binomial, getting the square of binomial, or the SB that we call, and then we have x squared plus 10x plus 25, which is actually called the PST. So this one is called the SB, square of binomial, and this one is called the PST. Okay. Now, in completing the square, the main purpose of this one is you have to complete the trinomial so that you are able to create a square of binomial. So, kumbaga, what will be given to you here is this one, and then you need to arrive with this one. So, kumbaga, may missing kayo. Okay. How will you be able to arrive with 25 if you are just given this one? Ito lang yung bibigay sa inyo. Para again, your aim here is you need to create a perfect square trinomial so that you're able to factor it out using the square of binomial. So, kumaga, magiging sagot nyo lang dito is 25. Okay? So, for example, I have x squared plus 4x plus blank, and what I need to have is x plus 2. So, ano dapat yung magiging sagot ko dito so that I am able to create x plus 2 squared? Factor it out in that form. So, what you actually need to do there is to follow the following. Firstly, let's denote the PST in this form. The PST is in the form of ax squared. Sorry, it's x squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. Okay? So, in this form, ito yung ating PST. Say, ito ay PST. What we need to do is we need to get b divided by 2, and then we get the square. And what we need to do there is we need to add b over 2 squared on both sides. So, what will happen would be in this constant, it will be transposed on the other side. So, it would be like this. X squared, bring it down here. X squared plus bx plus b over 2 squared is equals to c. Let's assume that it's still positive. Plus b over 2 squared. Okay? So you will add b over 2 squared on both sides. So after that, you will now be able to arrive with your square of binomial. It's a little bit complicated looking at it like this. The best way of doing this is, of course, on providing an example. So let's have an example. But just take note of this one. Actually, it's quite easy lang naman. Say I have x squared again. Plus 4x blank. Okay? So, ano yung kailangan kong i-add dyan? Okay? So, the first thing about completing the square is like this. Hindi ka binibigyan ng perfect square trinomial. You are never given a perfect square trinomial. So, the first thing that you need to do is you need to transfer this one on the other side. So, this would be x squared plus 4x is equals to negative 3. You will notice that I am leaving a space because diyan ko idadagdag yung ating, sabi natin, yung b over 2 squared. Okay? Diyan ko idadagdag yan. So, first, let's take b. Ano ba si b? b is just simply this one. Okay? The middle numerical coefficient. Yung middle numerical coefficient natin is 4. And then the next thing that we need to do is you need to divide it by 2. It's always 2. Take note. Kaya sa formula natin over 2 siya, hindi siya letter. And then we need to get the square. And square again is a constant. Therefore, you need to get the square always. And what is 4 over 2? The answer is 2. The answer here is 2. And 2 squared is simply 4. So, meaning, I need to add 4 both sides. So, if you, maybe you will ask, sir, lagi ba yung 4 or lagi ba yung 25 and so on? You will notice na ang laging dinadagdag natin is a perfect square number. Okay? So, review nyo lang kung ano yung perfect square number. So, after nyo makuha yan, okay, let me try to solve this one step by step para magamit natin later. Okay? That's 4 over 2 squared. That is 2 squared. And this is simply 4. Okay? So, in this case, ito, evaluate natin to. So, the answer for this one is just simply positive 1. And this one, since that is a PST now, PST na siya, pwede mo na siyang i-factor out. Factor out in how? So, what you need to do is you need to get the square root of the last term and then the square root of the first term, which is x and positive 2. Okay? And the next thing that you need to do is you need to take the sign of the middle, kaya yan naging plus. And that would be your square of binomial. Then again, you need to get the square root kasi gusto nga isolve si x. So the answer is just simply x plus 2 is equals to 1 and transpose minus 2, x is equals to negative 1. Ito na yung sagot natin. So using PST, you're actually able to solve for the unknown. Okay? Sige, let's try another example. I know it's a little bit complicated, but it's okay. Say we have x squared plus, let's say minus 6x plus 5 is equals to 0. So again, the very first thing that you need to do is transpose the constant on the other side, leaving you with x squared minus 6x is equals to negative 5. Next thing you need to do, you need to take b. Ang kailangan natin is b, not the sign. Ang b natin is 6. Divide it always by 2. Then you get the square. Okay? So the answer for 6 divided by 2 is simply 3. And 3 squared is 9. So meaning, I will add 9 on both sides. Next step, I evaluate ang constant sa kabila. That the answer there would simply be 4. Okay? Kasi negative 5 plus 9 is 4. And the next thing that I need to do is I need to evaluate this one, get the factored form. And to get the factored form, you get the square root of the first term, the square root of the last term, the square root of x squared is x, the square root of 9 is 3. And I need to get the middle sign. Ang middle sign niya is minus, so this would be minus. And then get the square. And then finally, you get the square root. You get the square root. And x minus 3 is just simply, the square will be cancelled. And the square root of 4 is just simply 2. So this would be x minus 3 is equals to 2. Transpose negative 3 sa kabila. The answer is just simply 5. And this would be your final answer. Okay? Next one. Next example. Let's make something up na very spontaneous. Say we have x squared minus, what if hindi siya divisible? By 2, 5x plus 4 is equals to 3. Yan. Paano kung may number pa rin sa kabila? So what I need to do here is again the same. Ilipat mo lahat ng dapat ilipat sa kabila. Take note, dapat walang katabi to. Kaya nga nagkakaroon ng space. That is 3 minus 4. Next one, take the middle term. Ang middle term po natin is negative 5. So what would happen there is, of course, you only take 5 and divide it by 2. Okay? And then you get the square. Since 5 is not divisible by 2, I just simply have to get the square immediately. Immediately kukunin mo yan. And what is 5 squared? That's 25. 2 squared is 4. And again, you will add this one to this given. Again, wala naman po nagbabago sa rule, so sana hindi kayo malito. Kasi yung problema is kapag nagkaroon na ng fraction, nalilito na kayo bigla. So anyway, so yan. 25 over 4. The next thing you need to do is, again, you need to get the square root of the first term. You get the square root of the last term, which is 5 over 2. Kasi nga square root niyan, square root din ito. Okay? And then finally, get the middle sign, which is minus. And then, of course, you add the square. And after that, ito, evaluate nyo yan. Kung nahihirapan kayong evaluate yan, what you need to do here now is, of course, add and subtract using fractions. Firstly, 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So, let's answer it on this side. Negative 1 yan. Plus 25 over 4. And the answer here would just simply be cross multiply dito. Okay? So, what is 4 times negative 1? The answer is negative 4. 1 times 25 is 25. Divided by, and then dun sa denominator, I simply have to multiply. Okay? And the answer here would be 21 over 4. So, 21 over 4. And then lastly, square root method. Get the square root, cancel, cancel. X minus 5 over 2 is equals to, ang 21 walang square root, so it is retained. Pero yung 4 may square root, so therefore that is equals to 2. And then again, lipat na. Leave x alone. That is square root of 21 over 2 plus 5 over 2. And x is equals to, since parehas ang denominator, I just simply have to add them together and then copy the denominator, which is square root of 21 plus 5 over 2. And other than that, since x is already alone, then you are already done. Okay? Again, class, nothing is changed here. Walang nagbabago sa ating methods. And at the same time, solving for x does not change. You always leave it alone. No more, no less. Okay? So I do hope you got that. I will upload your activity in our platform later. Okay? And your deadline would be still today. I will also check your activities regarding the square root method. Okay? So again, thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.